What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another week of PGA Golf. We're going to talk a little bit about the Wyndham Championship. We have a special guest here, Kenny Hyder. Many of you know him from our Discord, helps run the site and everything, and also a big golf guy, knows a lot more about golf than I do, and has had some recent success in some DFS stuff and had some real shots. If not for John Rahm COVID, he might have had some real shots. But yeah, we thought it'd be fun for him to come on and do the show because Sheets is out of town. And Kenny, how you doing today, man? And give us a sort of a brief, your brief thoughts on like the slate from an overall perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing well. Glad to be here. This is fun. It's always, fun to watch you guys and see everything. It's fun to be in a video one time. It's kind of
nice.
Cool.
Well, hopefully we can make it a regular thing.
Yeah. So this is an interesting week. Obviously, last week before the playoffs, the FedEx Cup playoffs. So I'm actually pretty big on the narrative this week. I think over the past couple of weeks, it's kind of proven true. There's going to be guys that need to make it and guys that want to get some better positioning. And, we have a little bit of a mixed field here. So, it's kind of an interesting, you can kind of approach builds any way you want. It's really easy to build kind of like a middle out way. You can kind of go stars and scrubs if you wanted. So yeah, I'm pretty interested in the slate. I'm glad to be back on a cut event for our last of the season here.
Yeah,
the no cut event I know wasn't as nice to you last week as it was to some people.
It was great. It would have been great if it was a cut event because I was crushed. I had everybody at 5 under. I was really looking good. Just frustrating when that happened.
I know. I was in the same spot. I played a little smaller last week, but I was in the same spot on the end of Friday with everyone. I think my worst guy was -5 or something like that. I was just like, whew, well. So anyway, interesting slate and exciting time of the season for golf. So I'm excited about this one.
Nice. Well, let's get into it. I think it's a very interesting thing. We're going to go by tiers like we always do. I think that what I have to point out about the first tier, and he's going to be the most popular guy probably on the slate. It is going to be hard with talking about weird narratives. Webb Simpson's named his daughter Wyndham because of this tournament. This is his first win. So there's a little extra narrative. And here's a guy who's going to be super popular, super chalky. Hasn't necessarily been in his best form. Where do you stand with the top level? I like Webb a lot. I want to get different elsewhere, but I can make a good case for all these guys, and they're all going to be fairly owned.
Yeah. So with Webb, I mean, it's hard to make a case against him. The past 4 years, he went third, second, third. So it's easy to see that people are going to be on him. And Webb is one of those guys that I typically do like, and that I'm usually on when he's not as popular, when there's some more studs in the field. But I don't know. I think this week it's a little easier to get off of them. It's also, my top pick in the top, in the 10Ks here would be Louis, actually. Mm-hmm. I think, I think Zalatoris doesn't belong in the 10K range. Patrick Reed is obviously out. Jason Kokrak kind of sneaks in there. It's interesting. Hideki, I get, I know this is the first time I think he's ever been the, highest cost player on a slate. Mm-hmm. But it's easy for me to get away from him too, just because of the cost. The interesting thing I did, I was playing around with some builds earlier today using sheets and, lineup optimizers with the export feature. And it's actually not too difficult to work in Louis and Webb together with a lot of the guys that I like down at the bottom of the 7K range. So I might kind of, stray that way a little bit just to not, get totally blown away if Webb does run away with this. But then again, we know that he hasn't been in great form. He's had some back issues. He, has kind of been hot and cold. So, I really don't mind a fade on Webb this week just because it's easy, it could be easy for him to go cold as well. And he's also, in terms of the narrative on FedEx Cup points, he's already in the playoffs, so he doesn't necessarily need to get up. Of course, he'd like to be, in the top 30 and with a decent place there. I think if what does he get, a tie for 20th or better or something, or no, 10th or better or something to get up in the top 30. So he's going to really have to be on fire, I think, to be worth it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me. So would you say that those are the only two guys? Because that's who I have at the top end too. I actually, because of my personal bias and because I think a lower ownership, I actually think it's going to be lower than it's projected with Zalatoris. I don't mind taking a shot with him. Just, he changed his putter. He's a big fan of this new putter and feels like his game was much better last week than he'd had it in a while. Did play really well at St. Jude. But I definitely understand that he probably, like, it does seem like a little high for him. And I actually feel like I love Kokrak too, but in general, I don't think this week I'm going to get as much of the Kokrak. And I'm always biased towards Matsuyama, but the problem is, like, I mean, this guy, I know it's incredible, like to come back from the Olympics and then go play last week and basically lip out for the win on Sunday.
Yeah. Brutal.
But I think that those are the pretty much Louis and Webb are the only guys I'm playing in the 10K plus ranges. Is that it for you too?
Yeah, I think so. Zalatoris, I get it. I would rather spend up the extra 300 or 400 for Weber or Oost. Really, if you look at Oosthuizen, he in the 10K range, he's really the only guy that screams gonna put up points.
Right.
Zalatoris, Webb, Hideki, they don't all necessarily have to even make the cut, or when was the last time we saw every guy in the 10K range make the cut? I don't think ever. You know what I mean?
Right,
so
never happens, yeah.
I think Oost and Simpson are going to be my only exposure in the 10Ks. I would like, I like the idea of maybe eating a little of the Kokrak chalk over Simpson, but that's, he's also second most chalk in the 10K range, and I don't think the best golfer. I mean, he belongs at the bottom of the 10K range, so it's easier for me to get away from that as well.
Right. No, that makes sense to me. Well, let's get into some more interesting ones, because we have to obviously try and get a little bit different in some spots here. And down in the 9K range, who are you looking at sort of as maybe the chalkier plays you like, and maybe some of the more off the board guys?
So chalkier plays, I am going to probably have some decent exposure to Brian Harman. He ranks out well in not only sheets but also in some models and things like that. Also, his recent form has been good. His course history here is good. He's played it the past 2 years. He got 27th and then a 6th in 2019. He ranks out well in most of the key metrics. Around the greens putting, and his total stats against the field are pretty decent. But other than that, in this range, I like Matt Wolff. Just because I think is back on the upswing, and you and I were talking about this over the past couple of weeks, and I know you've been a big Matt Wolff guy for a long time, and I think now's the time to be back on him. His form looks good. His driving accuracy is getting back to where it needs to be, and he's projected at pretty low ownership. We're seeing him at less than 6% or so. So I definitely like some Matt Wolff. And I also like a little bit of Bubba Watson here. Bubba's kind of been up and down. He couldn't make, I think was it the Olympics he had to withdraw from, or something recently. He had exposure to COVID, didn't necessarily test, but he withdrew. So he hasn't played as much recently, but his form, leading up to the end of this year has been great. And he's also, historically, one of the better players on tour. And, we're coming up, this is get up season, it's FedEx Cup season. And, he's 71st in the FedEx Cup rankings right now. He just needs to make the cut to get in the top 70 to qualify for the BMW. So if he has a good showing there, he top 20s, top 10, something like that, he's going to be sitting well. And, I think he has some huge motivation this week.
Yeah, I can get behind all of that. One guy, I definitely have some interest in Wolff myself. I know it's not, like everybody's gonna look and say, oh, it's not the right course for him. And I've heard other guys talk about that already. I'm willing to take a shot on a guy who, when he's on, is really, really tough. And I just think that you're going to get like such little ownership on him. And I wouldn't surprise me at all if he ended up, if he was at the top of the leaderboard on Sunday. So I don't mind getting some Wolff. I'm sort of iffy on the other guys. I don't love this range as much as everybody else. I like your argument for Harman. I can get behind that. Usually I'm a Fleetwood guy. This might be, watch, this will be the one he wins, because it's the one time I'm not playing Fleetwood. I literally talk about Fleetwood every week because I'm just waiting for the breakthrough, and it just never quite happens. He's had some good tournaments, but anyway.
Well, he's, Fleetwood, I kind of like that too. He needs to do something this week. Otherwise he's out of the playoffs. And, he's currently sitting at 136. He needs to gain, 50 points or so in FedEx Cups. I don't know where that lands on the position rankings for this tournament, particularly this week, but he needs to make the cut and he needs to do well. So I think that there's some huge motivation there for him. But then again, his recent form hasn't been the best, so it's a little bit harder to say. And he wasn't really playing as much, although he does also have, he has some good stats. I mean, he's about average on the field. But I think, his low ownership in this range, I mean, he's definitely the projected lowest ownership in the range by a lot, looking at Harmon at 14-ish%, Sungjae closer to 15, Russell Henley at 20%. So I like him as kind of a sneaky play and a guy that, needs to get up with his own personal motivation. I just don't know that I'll be able to get there myself.
Yeah, that all makes perfect sense. Well put. I couldn't agree more. The guy who I actually might end up playing in this is it's going to sound really bad, but I want to just make a Siwoo Kim argument here. Okay, so he hit, I think, 10 balls in the water. It was either 9 or 10, 5 on the same hole, and the same on one hole. I think, but I mean, I don't know what it ended up, 7 over, whatever you can max over on the hole is. That's what he was. He was. The weirdest part is that he actually played well in spurts and then just had these massive blowups. And I actually think that, like, at a different time at 9,100 here, like if this was, I don't know, this tournament took place a couple months ago, I think he would be really chalky. I understand he's not in his best form. I understand all of the reasons not to, but I'm trying to find a way to get different. So if I do play in this range, he's a guy I have alongside Matt Wolff, who I think would be kind of interesting. I like Henley, but I'm just probably not going to eat that chalk and probably spend more down in the 8 and 7K ranges. And like you said, maybe double pairing up top with Oosthuizen and Webb. So not my favorite range here.
Siwoo, I kind of understand that a little bit. I just think he personally is sitting fine currently. This is kind of like a spot for him to notch up a little bit if possible. The problem is, there's a lot of guys right around him in the FedEx Cup standings that are also trying to get into that top 30. And he's also got, the next week, he's guaranteed to play next week. So, right. He doesn't necessarily have to get there this week. I would be a little bit more worried, those guys that are, he's up against, ahead of him Siwoo's currently in 39th place in FedEx Cup standings. Ahead of him playing this week are, what do we have? Brian Harmon, Carlos Ortiz, Lucas Glover. I mean, there's, he's going to have to really hit it. I mean, if he goes off to the first day, that I think then maybe he ends up running away and having a great shot at, top 5 or something like that. But his historical performance, his first days usually are his best days. And that's kind of like, I don't know, it's a little scary to me. So
that makes a lot of sense actually for this type of, situation. I think that's well put. And I think that's actually a really good argument of not going there. It's just when no one goes anywhere and everybody sees the giant number and finishing last in the tournament last week and all that. I'm always just going to be a little bit on the contrarian saying, well, that was just one tournament, what I mean? Sure. But you made a lot of really good points. How about down in this 8K range down here? I have some, I guess I'll start this one off really quick because the guys I like are going to be popular. I don't know if I'll make any lineups without Charles Schwartzel. I love Schwartzel this week. I think at 8,100, it's a great price. Course fit. Everybody I know I haven't talked to you yet about it, but everybody else I know who knows golf pretty well is huge on Schwartzel, and I'm actually surprised that the ownership's not projected a little bit higher for him even. Either way, he's the one I'm going to eat a little bit of that chalk. And then I'm sort of struggling. I like the 7K range much better, which is I'm sort of leaning towards your idea of this Oosthuizen Webb sort of build here because I am not as obsessed with this range. And maybe I'm missing something. I like Schwartzel. I like Streelman. Those are the guys who stand out to me the most here. How about you?
So I like Schwartzel as well. I'll definitely eat that chalk, even though it's not as high as, it's not up projected near the 30s or something like Webb is. But, Charles Schwartzel is consistently up at the top of the leaderboard early in tournaments. He plays well. He plays well in weather. I like the South African guys for weather. We're going to see some weather. There's going to be thunderstorms. There's going to be rain and the wind isn't going to be as bad, but I like, he's the chalk I like in this range. Mm-hmm. Streelman, I also think I like Streelman a lot. I'm probably not going to be on him as much because my sneaky play here is going to actually be Kevin Kisner.
Interesting.
He's a local guy, plays well on this type of course, knows the area, he historically has done well in North Carolina. It's where he's from. He's known as being one of those, in the area guys. So I'll probably be on Kisner over Streelman a little bit. But yeah, also just Charles Schwartzel and, pretty much no other guys in. Well, I also kind of do like a little bit of Ricky Fowler. I know also hasn't been playing as well recently, but he's also got some motivation to, get there. He needs to place this week to make the playoffs. It would be the first time he didn't play the FedEx Cup playoffs in, I don't know how many years. I think I heard it was since 2010 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he's got it in him. We saw him earlier this season put up a couple of, impressive rounds. He was in contention back. I can't remember what that tournament was. What was it? Yeah. The Rocket Mortgage or something like that. And then he had like a blow up Sunday. So I think, and especially against this field and in this range, I don't know. It might be a little bit of personal ballast that I like Ricky, but I'll have probably a little bit of him just playing the narrative that I think he's going to have to get up and that he wants to. But also, Kisner, I like just for the local narrative as well. And then, I'm with you on Schwartzel.
You sold me on Kisner. I'm in on that one. I love that play. All right. This is one of those things that I know I know this guy hasn't been good. I'm just going to sort of ask your thoughts on this. Just in terms of quality of golfers, we've had this issue with Justin Rose for a while now. Like he hasn't been as good. He hasn't had a great year. Has had a couple out of the blue, like the Masters. I think he was like 0.5% owned, literally at 9,300 or whatever that tournament. He was like, owned, and he finished, 7th there. He's 8K. I just think that if you want to get weird with a play, I don't mind him either, but that's the last. I mean, we're talking about maybe if I played 20 lineups, he's in the 20th or something like that.
Yeah, I could see that. I think, I like Justin Rose. I think he's going to be an upset to not make the playoffs, which, is kind of sad to say. He hasn't really shown the performance recently. He's put together a couple of really great rounds, but, at the end of the day, a tournament is 4 days. And, he's going to have to go deep. It's the same thing. All these guys trying to make the top 125. There's a bunch of them in the field this week, and you've really got to, you've got to be up. You've got to be in contention and looking at, having a late starting time on Sunday. And I just don't know that he's going to get there this week, unfortunately.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, let's talk about the 7K range. Why don't we, because it's a big range, let's do the 7,500 plus guys first.
Okay.
And I mean, I'll let you go in 1 second. I'm just I like Johnny Vegas. I like the price. I think he's going to be popular, and I'm probably going to try and get a little bit different down here. I think I'm going to, I'm going to play Patton Kizzire because I'm a height supremacist. I love this giant guy, but we've seen streaky results out of him. He's a guy who wouldn't surprise me to see him up at the top at the end on Sunday. Just a really, really talented, sort of has found himself, had a couple really bad bad tournament stretch, but his last 3 tournaments, 25, 11, and 39, played a lot better. After that was coming on the 3 bad ones were on the heels of back-to-back thirds. He's got the talent, and I really like this price on him. So he's my favorite in this range, in the 7,500 plus range. I do like I said, I like Vegas. And then I was sort of interested if you had anybody off the board, because I'm not, guys like Zach Johnson and Varner and Ryan Moore and Glover, the low owned guys, I'm just not finding a lot of love for them. Who do you like at maybe the more chalky side? And then are there any of these other guys you're interested in that are going to be low owned?
So I like Gooch this week. Gonna definitely have him. I'm gonna have him in some single entries. I think there's great value there. I also like, I like Kizzire as well. I think Kizzire doesn't have a whole lot of motivation. It's probably more of a round, kind of warm up week for him. He's also guaranteed to play next week. I do like, this Gooch, Glover, Hughes here, because these guys are all, they need to keep their standing. They need to do well. They need to play good, and they need to get ready, coming up for the playoffs here. And they're all, in interesting spots where they're either trying to keep their current positioning or, notch it up a little bit, and also, trying to fend off a lot of other people that are kind of ranked where they are.
Mhm.
I think Vegas is interesting. We saw him a couple weeks ago, put up the round we'd all been watching him to, waiting for him to put together and looking for that, in contention spot on Sunday. I don't think I need to have any exposure to him this week, just because this range has a lot of other interesting plays that I think are low ownership that I'd rather be on. And, I think, Vegas is going to be probably the highest owned in this range. So, for me, I need to save some ownership somewhere. So I'll probably be off of him.
Mhm.
I think also a lot of people are going to be on Mito this week. He also has a pretty projected high ownership, easy for me to fade. Snedeker, I think, is a little bit more interesting. He's coming off of, a few good rounds. I mean, he missed his last cut, but before that, he had a 11th at the 3M. He had a 19th at the Open. He's made the cut every time he's played this court or played this tournament, including a first in 2018 and a third in 2016. So I'll probably be a little bit more on Snedeker there, in kind of a little bit less projected ownership than, say a Vegas or a Mito. And then, so we go all the way down here. So yeah, these guys, I know some of the other analysts out there like Zach Johnson, it's easy for me to fade this week. Lebiota, I understand, but I'm not going to be on him. So really for me, it's these, Gooch, Glover, Hughes, and maybe a little Kazire. I get the Kazire thing too. I just don't know that he's going to have a ton of motivation this week to really go deep.
Yep. That's actually a good point. And I just want to just touch on Lebiota for a second, because other than when he ended up withdrawing from the 3M, that was coming on the heels of 3 straight top 10s, 4th, 5th, and an 8. Really, really good form in general when he's played lately. It's been a little while since he's played. Where do you stand with Lebiota? I know that he's going to be popular. Is that the reason why?
I think, I'll be fading him just strictly because I think he's going to be too chalky for me. And, if I'm, especially in the builds, if I'm going to be looking at putting a couple together that have like a Webb Oost combination that are both going to be, very chalk, this range for me is really going to be where I'm looking to save ownership and not get onto the chalk.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just having a hard, I look at Lebiota, it's like I get excited at just looking at his recent form and everything, and I don't know. That's the reason I wanted to bring it up. I like a lot of these guys in this next range that I think are going to be a little bit lower owned, in the 7K to 7,400 range, starting at the 7,400 area. Chesreavy is one of my favorite plays on the board. Another guy who I'll probably have in most of my lineups. I absolutely love him this week, and I also think that just the low ownership on Gim, I'm very tempted by that as well. Those are, I guess, I shouldn't say I like a lot of guys, I guess, but those are the guys I really like. And then I know he's been sort of off lately, but I'm sort of tempted by this price on Chris Kirk at low ownership. Even though he struggled the last couple tournaments, I'm willing to look past it. And I think you can get, enough upside from guys like Gim, Reavy, and Kirk, who all should be 10% or below. Maybe Reavy gets a little bit above 10%, but I don't think it'll be that much. So those are the guys I really like, along with somebody who struggled last week, and that's Matt Jones. So that's sort of my main guys from this, and they're all going to be low owned. So I'm curious at your thoughts on this, because this is going to be a much lower owned tier in general.
Absolutely. I love the Chris Kirk play. I think, he's I can overlook, he hasn't played in a couple weeks. But he's also, if we're going with the FedEx Cup narrative, he's sitting at position 50th. He's guaranteed to play next week, but he's also had 3 weeks off. So, I think this is if there is a time to not have, a break scare you, this is the time, because these guys that haven't played in a few weeks, they weren't vacationing, they're practicing, this is the season, you know what I mean? And Chris Kirk, he's, I think, the only golfer in this range that gains strokes in every major category, including, he gains almost 0.3 to the field in putting, which I think putting is going to be big this week. Great gains almost 0.6 to, total. He grains 0.64 tee to green. So I really like Chris Kirk there, especially, you know, in this range, you know, we're looking at, you know, the highest ownership still being less than 10%, right? So what I prefer in this range is to play a couple of these guys together, so that you get that compounded, you know, low ownership. I also, in this range, I really like Joel Dahman this week. I think he's, you know, he's had a pretty stellar year. He, you know, he's currently 76th in Fed Cup rankings. So, you know, if he notches up to the top 70, that guarantees him 2 weeks of play. You know, I think he's got it in him to, you know, not necessarily win it, but I think that he could definitely put up a top 5 this week. You know, in this range, I'd say he'd probably be the most likely in my mind to, you know, score the highest. He's gaining, you know, off the tee. He's gaining on approach. He's gaining. He's, you know, at the field on putting. He's, you know, he's really put up some impressive stats this year. And you know, his, you know, look at this. He's $7,200. Look at, he hasn't missed a cut in 6 events. And, you know, that was the only cut he missed in the past 10. So I'll definitely heavy on Joel Dahman this week. Also, you know, probably doing some Dahman Kirk combos. Maybe also this week I like Lanto Griffin.
Okay.
He's also one of those guys that I think has, you know, some motivation to do well this week. He's sitting at 82nd, so he's looking to get in the top 70 as well. He'll also be playing next week, but I think, you know, these guys, you know, they're looking at the weakest field they're about to see for the next couple of weeks. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of value in this range because, you know, they're not playing against, you know, the top 50 players in the world. They're playing against a couple of the top 50 guys. And, you know, these guys all have the ability to, you know, really put up in some solid weeks. I think the scoring is going to be well, you know, we know the course is going to be wet. So some of these guys, you know, the mistakes they have maybe on approach or things like that are going to be negated a little bit more because the course will be easier to play. We're going to see some scoring. And I think, you know, you get a couple of these guys in a top 10, you know, line up together and you're going to be looking good.
I like it. The very bottom of the range, there's 3 guys who I really like. It's Bo Hogg, Ryan Armour, Kyle Stanley, and a little bit of interest in Aaron Wise, but more Stanley, Armour, and Hogg here. Hogg has been really good lately, as is Armour, by the way, and decent history, if I'm not mistaken, on that one. But, you know, 2 top 10s in his last, it's weird. He had to get 3 really bad tournaments, and then he's had 2 top 10s on the other side of it for Armour. I'm a fan of those 3 guys. What are your thoughts on them? I think you're going to get low ownership on Stanley. I think that Armour is going to be much more owned than he's projected right now. And I think Hogg is going to be closer to 10%, but still under 10%. So I actually think those 3 guys are all interesting.
Absolutely. I think, so I ran a model using Sheets projections this week through the Roto-Grinders lineup HQ and just, you know, put it in dry, ran 150 lineups to see what popped out. And Brendan Todd was the 2nd most rostered player with a 91% exposure over 150 lineups.
Oh my goodness.
So that was really interesting. Sheets projections really like Brendan Todd this week. I'm a little bit scared of that. He has not been in good form. His, you know, he's losing strokes to the field off the tee. His, you know, his highest strokes gained is in putting, but he's either even or losing strokes in every other category. So that's kind of, you know, really scary to me. I'm going to end up having him just because I trust Sheets, and I, you know, I think it's worth playing. I think Bo is an interesting choice. He wasn't on my radar, but looking at him, I like it. I think you're absolutely right. He's been in great form. He's put up, you know, he hasn't missed a cut in a long time. You know, he made the cut here last year. He's, you know, pretty much even to the field. He's not losing strokes in any category. So I'm going to have to re-examine that because he was not on my radar. And I also do like Ryan Armour a lot this week. He was on my initial pass through. He was, you know, one of the first names I wrote down, and then he's, you know, made a lot of the final builds I've already put out. So I'll definitely have plenty of exposure to Ryan Armour this week. Again, another guy, you know, he's currently 122nd in FedEx Cup points. So, you know, he's going to have to make the cut this week just to make sure that he stays within that top 125, because there's so many guys that if they make the cut, that, you know, that'll adjust everything. So even though he's inside the playoffs cut line right now, he's not guaranteed to be there. So he has some motivation to at least make the cut this week and try to put up a score. So I also really like Ryan Armour in this range.
Nice. I like it. Getting down to the 6K guys, there's a couple of things that stood out. I mean, the guy who I like the best is probably Brian Stewart at the higher end of the 6Ks. I don't love it. I don't know if I'm going to need to do it. But I do think that it, you know, he's the one guy who I sort of could get a little bit behind. It's just, I just noticing the pricing. I look, it's not, these guys have been terrible and there's a reason they're priced where they are. But Molinari and Kuchar, it's just weird to see them this cheap. I mean, literally since I've been doing golf, I've never seen them this cheap or anywhere close. But I can't quite click the button, and I'm having trouble in the 6Ks finding things I really like. I even thought about Hadwin for a little bit. Who are you liking down in the 6K ranges? Because I'm really struggling with this area.
So I'm with you on Brian Stewart. You know, he's had some really great scores this year. You know, he's played this event before. You know, he is, you know, about average on the field. His ownership's also, you know, the one thing I don't like about him is his ownership's on the higher side in this range. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when I see guys down, you know, in the 6K or, you know, below 7K range that are projecting at close to 10% ownership, that's usually a sign for me to try to fade, because, you know, it's easy. It's just as easy for these guys to miss the cut as it is for them to make it statistically, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd rather be on, if I'm going to be in this range, I'd rather be on the guys that are going to be, you know, 1, 2, 3% or something like that.
Gotcha.
So for that reason, I probably won't have any exposure to Stewart. I do think there are a couple other interesting ones. I like Scott Stallings. Mm-hmm. He's been in great form lately. You know, he's, you know, his you know, his stats against the field, he's only losing 0.1 strokes off the tee. That's his worst stat. So I think, you know, he's actually a really good spot, I think, this week. And he's another one of those guys who's, you know, inside the cut line, but needs to maintain it to continue to, you know, play the next couple of weeks. So he's going to have some pretty big motivation to get up this week. And I think, you know, against a weaker field and a little bit of an easier, probably what'll be a you know, more of a scoring tournament this week. I like him a lot. And then the other one, you know, for me, that's really kind of hard to avoid is actually Adam Hadwin. So, you know, Hadwin actually hurt me pretty bad back, you know, a couple of these tournaments when I was on him. But, you know, before that, he was having some good rounds. He was having, you know, had a couple of top 10 finishes. And, you know, I think he's one of those golfers that long-term isn't just, he doesn't belong in the 6K range. You know, I know his form hasn't been the best lately, but he's, you know, he's either even or gaining strokes on the field in every major category. And he's projected to be, you know, less than 2% own. And I think he's just one of those guys that long-term is going to be, you know, a great player. He's also, you know, in the middle of the field at, you know, current ranked at 112th. So he needs to maintain his position as well in the FedEx Cup standings this week. So I think, you know, those guys in this range, I like the guys that are inside the cut line and need to keep it there, as opposed to the guys who are just outside the cut line and need to make it. Because, you know, if you're already outside the cut line, I've got to imagine psychologically it's a little bit harder to get there than it is, oh, I'm already there, let me just keep it going. You know what I mean? So I like those guys that are that are already in but need to maintain their position this week.
I like it. I did forget to mention one guy who I really do like, and another one who unfortunately sort of is going to be probably one of the higher owned players under 7K after he's tied for 5th at the Barbasol. Has been really, really good. Strokes gained on approach. He's been really, he's literally shown like as much upside as you can hope for from a guy in this price tier, and actually has been pretty consistent in terms of at least making cuts with 4 straight and you know, top 40 in 3 of those 4. And that's Norlander. I think he's interesting, just because I think he's in really good form, and I have mild interest there. But again, I don't know that I'm going to end up playing much in this range. And the other guy who I wanted to mention is Roger Sloan, who has been also playing really, really well, playing much better for him than we've seen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So those are the two guys I like.
When you said that, well, actually, when you were saying that about Norlander making 5 of the last 6 cuts and 4 top 40s or something, I thought you were talking about Roger Sloan, because he actually has the same record.
Right.
And Sloan also has the past 2 years, top 40 finishes at this tournament itself. So I think I do like Sloan as well. I just think it's sometimes digging deep at this barrel. I don't know that we necessarily have to go this deep into this range with how much value is in the 7K range, and then I think we both kind of were more on the side of fading most of the 9K range. So I think it's a little bit easier to do a little bit more balance of the build without digging as low, but I like it. I like Sloan and I like Norlander. I think those are good picks.
Yeah. I think that's probably the most I'll do from this range. I'm not going to play Wyndham Clark, even though the tournament is the Wyndham. So I think that's pretty much most of it. So let's get to our game here. So I'll let you go first, and then I'll go after you. Who's winning the tournament above? Well, it could be any range actually, but you can pick. Usually we tend to do the top 5 guys is in the 9K range, the winner in the 10K range. But you can pick from any you want. Who's winning the tournament most likely to you?
Who's winning the tournament? Matty Wolf.
Oh, wow. That was a surprise one. Wow. Okay. This sounds like me all of a sudden. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. I will be the chalk guy, and I will say Oosthuizen with I thought you were going to go Oosthuizen, so I was going to take Webb, so I'll take Oosthuizen.
Okay.
In the 9K range, other than Wolf, who do you like? And actually, it could be lower than 9. Anything lower than the 9,900 for a top 5.
I like Bubba Watson.
Okay, you're getting way off the board here. I love it. It's going to make it a lot easier to build some unique lineups, unlike my chalk city of the last tournament I played. All right, it's an interesting one for me. I'm sort of struggling with the exact 9K range. As I mentioned, it's not my favorite tier, so I think I'll go down, and I'm going to say Charles Schwartzel actually.
Okay.
I know is maybe may be like a reach for top 5, but I do think that I just love him this week, so that's where I'm at. How about in the 8K range for a top 20?
8K range for a top 20.
Or top 10,
Kisner.
Go ahead, Kisner.
Kisner.
Love it.
Yeah.
You're going to have the team no chalk. I love it. That's good stuff. I will take down in this 8K range, which again, I might drop beneath because I don't love some of the other guys. So I'm going to actually go down and say Chez Reavie, who instead of using him for managed pick, I like Reavie a lot.
Okay.
Yep. I know it's a little bit, maybe a little bit ambitious, but I feel like he owes me one. If he wins that other tournament a few weeks back when I was in first with all those guys tied, I was just praying for a Reavie victory.
Oh man, I know, seriously.
That would have been huge. But who do you like down in the 7Ks that you're going to take to the top 20?
Okay, top 20 in the 7K range. I'm gonna go going with Gooch.
Okay, I love that you're doing this. Is perfect because this is going to let me. I always have to build a couple lineups where me and Sheets have take our guys in this thing, and they've always done really well. So I
nice.
Hopefully keep that part rolling. And the other one I get going. Yeah, Chris Kirk is my guy. So
okay,
I think we can. And then we're gonna be off the board here with our guys, which is really really nice. So down below and under 7K to make the cut.
Under 7K to make the cut. I'm gonna go with Scott Stallings.
There you go. And I will go with Norlander. And there you have it.
Perfect.
Kenny, thanks a lot, man. That's great insight. Really appreciate this. We got to do this again. We'll do a 3-man booth with me, you, and Sheets. And you're definitely a little bit better at breaking down all the advanced stuff. And I know that you paid attention to the FedEx Cup, all the rankings and everything like that. And I think it's really helpful. Anyway, I really appreciate you doing all this and all the work you do for the site. Guys, want to remind you out there, it's still a month free for if you want to try out Tour DFS. If you want to stick with us, it's $35 a month after that. Sheets have been absolutely crushing. You get my plays and everything for the major sports, golf, baseball, football, basketball, and then Sheets.
Oh, let me just say too, last week. So what I've been doing recently is taking Sheets projections and building 150 lineups and putting them in the mini max. And last week, I at the end of Friday, had a lineup that was sitting tied for 5th in the mini max, and then was up to 3rd and 4th on Saturday. It ended up not winning the tournament, but it was a profitable week. So, and that was literally just doing no work. It was just taking sheets numbers and putting them in a builder and then importing to DraftKings, and it made it 2 weeks in a row now it's been profitable. So, signing up and just taking it and running it dry into the small buy-in stuff might be a way to pay for your own subscription. I don't know. Might be a little hack there.
I love it, man. I think it's a good call. I think that, it's interesting. We had a guy 3 weeks ago who won the mini max who did the exact same thing and just used sheets to sheets. So
that's amazing.
Look, they're awesome. So it factors in everything. So I would encourage everybody at least give it a shot. Anyway, man, thanks again for being on, guys. Good luck out there. Let's have a true DFS week. We want to see screenshots. We want to see how you're doing at the end of the days. We want to see some sweats. We want to have a chance this week. Let's crush it. It's our last, not our last, it's the last, not the last golf tournament. It's the most fun golf tournament we're having for a while for me, because I am going to be out of town and probably not quite as dialed in and playing as many lineups this week. So again, thanks to Kenny, and for true DFS for Kenny, good luck out there, and hopefully we'll see you top the leaderboards.